so I joined the UN in 2015 as a young professional, as an economist. So I did my PhD in policy analysis and economic development, and then yeah, I started in Santiago de Chile, and I was there for almost four years. And then I moved to the New York office as an evaluation officer. So in Chile, I was working on sort of rural development issues, the transition from rural to urban, in economic development. And so I was there, and then as part of, the UN mobility program, came back to the States, and so really late 2018, yeah, I was hanging out with a friend, and he and I had met from a mutual friend in Chile, and he said, "So what do you do at the UN?" And so, we were getting a, cup of coffee, and I started to launch into, and sort of 20 minutes later, I had been talking nonstop, and he said, "Yeah, but what do you actually do?" And we sort of realized that, that was really how our podcast was born, because we realized that, so many people at the UN are so excited and passionate about what they're doing.
Good. So I'm so excited to speak about this Uncomplicated podcast, because I thought it was a brilliant idea, to bring the UN closer to the general public, right? So people understand what goes on during those meetings, and the experts that come, the diplomats that come to negotiate issues, important issues that impact people's everyday lives. No, take for instance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the thing, is that people feel like the UN is separate, is really distant from them, that it doesn't have an impact on their daily lives. What I think what many people around the world don't realize is that, we were the first organization that's really meant for the people and by the people globally, right? In terms of our own podcast, we're doing everything remotely, so we don't need to, we're not in studio anymore. But both of us, my co-host and I, both have full-time day jobs. So this is entirely a labor of love that we're doing, and sort of doing it outside of our normal context. So it's been challenging, but really fun.
So you produce once a week, one program a week?
About once a month. So usually it takes us, a week or two to figure out who we're going to interview and what the theme is. What's nice is that the UN has sort of monthly celebratory days in that sense. And so, when the UN turned 75 this year. So in January, our first episode of the year was discussing that, and sort of what the expectations were for the next 75 years of the UN. So we talked to the leader of the campaign for UN 75. And then in March, because of International Women's Day, we actually spoke with somebody in UN Women who was able to talk about the policies and talk about sort of what violence against women actually means right now.
So you are an economist by training. So what your day job, so to speak, is?
So I think the fun thing about the UN is you can do something different almost every day, certainly every few months. And so in Santiago, I was working with the governments of the region and helping them figure out policies that would lead to more equitable economic development. So for example, so in Ecuador, they had a policy, sort of a conditional cash transfer. And one of the things I was interested in is understanding whether the money that people were receiving, how they're using it. And so we were able to show actually that some of these households are using these funds that they're getting from the government to start their own businesses. And so, then we were able to tell the government, hey, maybe you could have some more training. Hey, maybe you could think about sort of other policies that can support small businesses. And so that was a conversation we'd had with the government of Ecuador for over about a year period, helping them figure out what the data were saying and what that might mean for the policies they were designing in the future. And then now in New York, I'm working in internal evaluation. And so what that means is that I basically am sitting one level back from the government and within the UN system, looking at the different departments and asking how, what are they doing? How are they doing it? And could potentially there be some improvements in what they're doing? And so those are the three driving questions for all of our evaluations. And so we just did an evaluation for 2 departments that merged together. And so that was quite interesting, thinking about the political side and the peacekeeping side, what those organizational cultures look like before the merge and what it looks like now, and sort of what that means for the work going forward. Because like with any organization, when 2 cultures merge, there is a bit of a transition period. And so our role was to try and help and ease that transition. But yeah, so from day to day, it might be interviewing people in the UN headquarters. And then it might also, a couple months later, I was in Jordan and Burundi, and interviewing people on the ground there, asking about, what the transition of these 2 departments in New York, what that meant for the work they were doing in Burundi, and how the services the UN was producing now affected them. So really, I think that really, from my own perspective, brought it home that, what we're doing in New York really does have this impact thousands of miles away. And